I have cancer. We're going to talk about it today on Dungeon Craft.
Deathbringer here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and sign up for the Deathbringer RPG newsletter below.
Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor DM, and on this channel we usually talk about tabletop role-playing games and homebrew D&D, but this week we're talking about my health. Back in September 2023, I went for my annual physical. My first in about 8 years. It was at the behest of my daughter Elizabeth, who had her physical and she had high cholesterol. Which is weird because she's super healthful, she's a vegetarian, she exercises and all that stuff. And I pretty much subsist on cheeseburgers and pizza. And she was like, "Dad, you gotta get your cholesterol tested. If mine's high, you're probably having an arterial blockage and you're moments away from a stroke." Well, the joke's on her because my cholesterol was fine. Unfortunately, my PSA levels were high. So I went to my urologist for my annual prostate exam, which I hadn't had in a couple of years, and he didn't find anything unusual. So we retested the PSA levels, and they came back even higher. So the next step was to schedule an MRI, and when the results came back, my urologist said there was an area for concern. And that meant a biopsy, and the biopsy came back and revealed I have prostate cancer. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, prostate cancer is the second most common cancer affecting men in the United States after skin cancer. The prostate is found below the bladder, and it's part of the male reproductive system. The biggest risk factor for prostate cancer is your genetics. If your father had prostate cancer, as mine did, you're much more likely to have it. As cancers go, it's very curable if it's caught early. But if it left untreated, it can be deadly. Frank Zappa, Telly Savalas, and Bill Bixby died at relatively young ages from prostate cancer. Now the good news is they caught it early. If my prostate were a 12-sided die, the cancer would only be on one of those sides. And because of that, I had the widest possible array of options. And after discussing it with my oncologist, I decided that the way we would go is targeted radiation therapy. That's the layperson's term for it. It's got another fancier name. But what it means is every day for 6 weeks, you lay on a table and they zap your prostate with an invisible beam. And that kills the bad cancer cells, leaving the rest of the prostate intact. And it didn't hurt, although it was uncomfortable because before you do it, you have to down about 20 ounces of water to make sure your bladder is filled, because they want the bladder to separate your prostate from the rest of your organs so that beam doesn't cause cancer somewhere else. And as of today, I have concluded my treatment, and I feel fine. I'm suffering from some mild side effects, which include fatigue. I have to take like 2 naps a day, and a couple of other things I'm not going to talk about, but they're mild, all things considered. And there's like a 99.99% chance I'm cured, but we won't know for a couple of months. And I'll continue suffering those side effects because the radiation is still working in my body. But I should be cured, and even if I'm not, we still have the option to remove the entire prostate. So why am I telling you all this? Normally I'm a very private person. I don't like a lot of attention, but my children and my students have informed me I'm an influencer now. And if I have any influence at all with you watching this and you're over the age of 50, I'm urging you to get a prostate exam. According to my YouTube analytics, 96% of my audience are males, and a third of those are males over the age of 50. And we need to get our prostates checked every year. Every Dungeon Craft video gets about between 30 and 50,000 views, and that's a lot of dudes with prostates. And I figure if one of my viewers sees this video and gets themselves checked and discovers that they have it, but it can be treated, then it'll be worth it. It might mean some guy gets to attend their child's graduation or walk their daughter down the aisle. And it's not just about us. It's about our children having memories of us on these special occasions. And I hope you stick around because I got a lot of people to thank. First, the staff at Steeplechase Cancer Center, Robert Wood Johnson Hospital. And I mean everyone. Obviously the doctors and nurses, but all of the technicians and the receptionists who were so kind to me. They did a great job, and if you're in New Jersey and you're suffering from prostate cancer, I can't recommend them highly enough. To my patrons who've been so supportive, I had to cancel a couple of appearances this past year at conventions, and this is why. Thanks for your continued support. Without you, Dungeon Craft would not be able to continue. To my sponsors, thanks for your patience and the delays in me getting back to you. This is why. And a lot of people asked to sponsor this video, and I was like, I don't know if you want to sponsor this. Now you know why. To my principal and the administration at my school and all my colleagues for being so supportive and understanding at this difficult time. For my players, I apologize for not running more games, but I'll be returning to the table very soon. To my students, thanks for your patience and diligence. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for the last semester. I did make it up to the AP test, and I taught you everything I know, and I'm sure you're going to do very well on that test. I didn't tell you about the specifics because I didn't want you to be worried or stressed out. I wanted you to concentrate on doing your best on your test. I look forward to seeing you in September and writing your college recommendations. And to my wife and family for their support, and Elizabeth, who had the good sense to convince her dad to go see the doctor. This is the last video I'm going to be making for a couple of weeks because I'm going to be flying to Ireland to see Elizabeth. She lives there. And Elizabeth, I can't wait to see you again. And make sure you have Wingspan because we're going to play. Now the good news is I'm going to be at Gen Con with my events to be announced shortly, and I'll inform you on Patreon and Facebook as soon as I know where I'm going to be. But most of the time I'm in the exhibition hall looking at cool games, or I'm in the Lurking Fears room. If you want to play cool independent games like the Free League stuff, Call of Cthulhu, Shadow Dark, you want to go over to the Lurking Fears room, and even if you're not registered for an event, even if you couldn't get into one, go talk to them. They'll be able to squeeze you into something, and I'll be in and out of there the whole time. And Dungeon Craft has some great videos coming up, like my adaptation of the Tomb of Horrors, with a lot of other YouTubers making cameos. And my Ultimate GM screen, Dungeon Edition. For those of you who say, I never do crafting anymore, that's not true. I'm doing tons of crafting. Those just generally don't get promoted by YouTube, but there's more coming. And the Deathbringer Mini, which will be available shortly from Mammoth Factory Minis. I'm going to show you how to paint them. And to all my viewers, thanks for watching Dungeon Craft for the last 5 or 6 years, and there's much more to come. I'll be back soon. May all your rolls be 20s.
Deathbringer. Now this is kind of awkward. Anyway, here's a sneak preview of the Tomb of Horrors, coming next Monday.
Somewhere under a foreboding hill lies the crypt of the demi-lich Acererak. Legends say Acererak amassed a fortune in gold, gems, jewels, and magic items. But his heart was so filled with greed and malice, he designed his tomb as a death trap for those brave or foolish enough to enter. Over the centuries, thousands of heroes have entered the tomb, but only a handful have emerged. Lured by rumors of fabulous wealth, you have traveled to the Skull Mound, and that is where your adventure begins.